Let's talk about Keep Breathing, Netflix's latest survival drama that combines the harsh landscapes of the wilderness and traumatic experiences of family and love. This one comes from Warner Brothers TV, and I'm going to discuss my own personal thoughts and feelings regarding this limited series. Of course, that means there will be spoilers ahead. Melissa Barrera stars as Liv, quite appropriately named, a young woman who, after her plane gets cancelled, decides to hop on a private plane, which winds up crashing in the Canadian wilderness. While trying to survive, we also get interwoven flashback scenes of Liv's life from her childhood to her adult life, which work hand in hand. Now and again, Liv will be faced with a problem she needs to solve, and a flashback to her childhood gives her the information she needs to draw upon, such as how to make a compass using a magnet, needle, cork, and water. The presentation here is essentially like a survival version of Slumdog Millionaire, wherein game show questions trigger flashbacks to show how Jamal knows the answers. Here though, it's several lessons learned throughout her life that assist her, but on top of that, these flashbacks aid in showing why Liv has such a high level of resilience. Because despite being in this horrendous life or death situation, isolated, pregnant, and has very few supplies that she salvages from the wreckage in a Castaway FedEx style, Liv remains pretty level-headed for the most part. She seems generally quite unaffected, and it almost comes across as though she enjoys the fact she's in this scenario. It made me question the characterization of Liv here, but of course it's the flashbacks that demonstrate she's been through an awful lot in her past that's toughened her mentality. I mean, to be able to tell a grizzly bear to fuck off, like it was just some seedy bloke trying to chat her up, and then to sleep pretty comfortably in the open despite now being aware there's bears kicking around, that says to me this gal is pretty solid. On the whole, Barrera does a really good job in the role actually, and is a pretty likeable character, and I think that by extending this concept into a limited series, the show is able to make her more fleshed out and connectable. Most films of this ilk are around about the 90-minute mark, so by the time you spend time in the survival predicament and then spend some time with the people in their backstories, both sides of the narrative coin lose a bit of steam and wind up not feeling developed enough. At least here, by having 6 episodes to play with, you get to spend enough time in both scenarios for them to be more impactful. Normally in these kind of premises, I hate the cutaway stuff because I'm mainly watching it for the danger levels of the premise rather than necessarily who is involved. But the themes of the backstory here were actually done pretty well. You've got 3 main elements to it: Liv's mother, her father, and her boyfriend from work, Danny. Her mother is an artist who is very much off the wall. Eccentric as she is, it alienates Liv and her father. She puts more time into her art and career than spending time with Liv, at least from Liv's point of view, and that makes her kind of resent her in her future. At first, the series makes the father the figure of admiration, and as we learn he passes away, Liv's grief of the loss really breaks her. It feels as though it's her and her dad going against her mother's bonkers nature and drawing a bit of a line in the sand with her. But what I like is that as the show progresses into the back half of the series, the roles start to go in opposite directions, with the father being a bit more cruel, hiding postcards sent by the mother reaching out to Liv, which in turn makes her love and affection for Liv a lot more clear, and the father's negative control over Liv rise to the surface. It reaches a point where Liv realizes that both of them possess good and bad qualities, and she in turn possesses them also. I also quite enjoy the segment where Liv, after heading off to find salvation, falls down a hole into a cave and becomes trapped under a boulder. She wraps her head, which mirrors her mother wearing head wraps, just to symbolically tie those characters together. Her stuff with Danny I was a lot more disinterested in, and to me only served a purpose when it was linked to the much better established parent plot threads, as Liv starts to turn Danny away in fear of being hurt, due to witnessing the disassembling of her mother and father's marriage. He was a bit of a meh character in all honesty. One character I feel that was used a little strangely was Sam, one of the guys Liv hops in the private plane with. He gets a piece of metal stuck in his leg and dies in the first episode, so bearing in mind Liv hasn't known him for very long and his impact on her life is extremely minute, when it comes to the scenes where Liv imagines people around her talking to her for help, why is Sam one of them? He's like one of the main people she draws upon for guidance, but in terms of their character bond, it felt like it didn't quite fit the purpose here. As for the rest of the show, it's got really good production value. The underwater segments in particular are really good. The wilderness is shot incredibly well. You really do feel a part of this environment when you're in it, though by deviating into those flashback sequences for the higher ratio of the runtime, you can be sucked back out of the wilderness a little bit. I'd say that despite being labelled as a survival show, and I still stand by its use of flashbacks as a good decision, it's likely not going to immerse you in the survival elements as much as you might desire if that's the main purpose you wanted to watch it. Overall, I think Keep Breathing works more as a family drama and a rather personal character study, with the survival setting being an allegory for the wilderness of trauma and emotional scarring experienced in life. There are many threats out there that can get you, and at many points you certainly can feel isolated and have to pick up the pieces you possess and work with them, fending for yourself. That approach to the show makes it work, I think. If you're wanting Bear Grylls or Creek Stewart, you're not really gonna get it. On the whole, it's a pleasant watch, but what do you lot think of Keep Breathing? Let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to see Unleash the Ghouls Keep Breathing with our phenomenal level of growth, a cheeky sub would be much appreciated. I'm Connor, and cheers for checking this one out. See ya.